man. It always happens.
Oh my God, Bishop. Okay. Okay. So, Bishop, you're good to go. We can get started. You look great. You look sharp.
You look beautiful, as usual.
Well, thank you very much. Okay. Hello, everyone. I am Magatte Wade, founder and CEO of Skin is Skin, the lip balm with a mission. You can learn more at skiniskin.com. And I am, as usual, with Bishop Omar Jawar, the founder and CEO of The Urban Specialist. And Bishop and I, together, we have a show, Catch the Drip, which basically is all about talking to some of the most, the most iconic influencers, cultural influencers of our times, to come together on the show with us and tell young people about, how they can overcome the odds and how they can, we talk about self-empowerment, all of that, just so that they can live some good, healthy, happy lives. And so this show called Black Culture Matters is brought to you by Catch the Drip. Bishop, so good to see you, as usual.
It is great to see you, and I'm excited about the conversation today. It's always a blessing. It's always good to be in your presence.
Well, same here, same here. And Bishop, for those who may have not been listening to us on our last session, there is something that we went into that I would like for us to dig into deeper today. And so, yes, so obviously we don't call this Black Culture Matters for no reason. For some reason, we have decided that Black culture is important and is central to the issue of Black people being respected around the world and being taken seriously. So it's, for the longest time, Bishop, I have wondered, why does it seem to be so that all around the world, Black people seem to not be respected? I mean, even when I'm home in Senegal and I walk into a bank, this is Senegal. This is my home country. Hold on a second. I'm going to take this off. This is Senegal. This is my home country, right? And I would walk into the bank. The teller looks like me. But then when the teller sees a white person, this white expat, coming in and doing his or her transactions, it seems this person is better treated than me. You know what I mean? So this seems to be, so you remember last time when I was saying, today we don't have to talk about all of that crap, but what I'm saying is, everywhere you go, it just seems like we're at the bottom of a totem pole, right? Of society when you look at the skin colors. So I've been trying to think very hard about this, and I'm just like, obviously there are some stereotypes that are attached to being Black. And for the longest time, I'm somebody who, I like to think of myself as a well-rounded person. And I always thought that, okay, these stereotypes that people have of Black people, it seems like it's coming from the rapper and the hip hop artist people. And then, I have to tell you, I have to repeat, I've been challenged in that view. I'm not saying that it's not the problem, but I've been challenged in what is the problem in all of this. And eventually, I had to start thinking, would I have such a problem with rappers or hip hop artists just because they tend to have tattoos everywhere and, piercings and who knows what else? Like, I'm not talking about one or two. I'm talking about maybe the whole body and then, the way sometimes they dress and all of that. Well, would I still be bothered if, despite all of that, they were known to be the great physicist? They were known to be great mathematicians. They were known to be amazing entrepreneurs. If that same image of their envelope also matched on the other side the fact that all of these good things I talked about, maybe we could care less, right? What maybe they look like. So what we make them out to be is part of a problem. And I guess that's what Catch the Drip is trying to work on. Because when we bring them on stage on the show with you and me, Bishop, we basically are portraying as the great fathers that they are. Like in the case of, Yella Busy, the great creators that they are, like in the case of Free Dignity, the great entrepreneurs, like in the case of, DJ Duffy, and also, Bebe. So with Catch the Drip, we are trying to tackle that. We're trying to make it that it doesn't matter what they might have chosen to look like or the way they decide to live their life. If we can change the other side of the equation, maybe we also help with the current stereotype. Do you think it's just, oh, whatever, Magatte? Or do you think we might be onto something with that? Because I have to tell you, I've been on this journey of really trying to understand, because I used to have thought, a certain set of thoughts for the longest time, as in hip hop artists and rappers, you give us a bad image with what you portray. And today, I can no longer make that true. So I've been trying to find what is still true, what is not true, and therefore, what do we need to work on? I'm gonna shut up. You're such a good listener. You always let me talk too much. But are we, Bishop, with Catch the Drip, do you think that we might be able to do that? Do you think that we might be able to turn a bunch of people who otherwise you would think their lives is steeped in violence and gangs and stuff, like, we can change it from that vision to a vision of, great fathers, entrepreneurs, creators?
Well, but here's the idea. First of all, I want to know who in Senegal was treating you bad. First, tell me that. I'll find that banker right now and tell him whenever they see you bow down, it's a queen coming.
Offline. I'm going to take you and Bishop and a few other of our brothers, and you're going to go help me. I promise you, I will take you and show them to you. But it is true, though. Oftentimes they treat the Westerners and the white people better than they treat their own, our own kind. That's a whole nother conversation. But yeah.
Tell you. So that's a great question, and the answer is absolutely. Yes. We can change the idea, because ideas, we used to say this, a friend of mine, Omar used to tell me, images shape your reality. What's real is what's realized. So the more we promote and pursue images that change the narrative, there is an expectation that there are multiple layers. See, sometimes we think that the one outer layer is who a person is. And artistic people, they are always forcing us to redefine what those layers look like. So some of those layers may look like, tattooed and grilled out and all of that. But those layers are very superficial when it comes to who they are. And so this is what we do. In the work that I do with urban specialists at OGU, I developed this thing called a box. And the box, inside of that box is you. And I always ask 4 questions. What do you hate? What do you fear? What do you love? What do you need? Those things really develop your true identity. All the other layers that come into your box, they either promote or they demote the identity and the idea that you have in your mind. So for me, it's okay for me to look at a box that's complicated. I look at a person that has an outer layer that's complicated, because I know that the fundamental who they are based on those questions. And so when you start asking, what do you love? And they say, I love my children. What do you fear? And they say, well, I fear being misunderstood. Or what do you need? I need love unconditionally, and I need to be understood. What do you hate? I hate it when I'm not able to finish my goals. You sound very familiar to me. You sound like a human to me. You sound like a citizen to me. So now how do I invest in those citizenship ideas and those higher moral values so that your creativity is more apparent than your sexuality? Or even more so than just your genius and your artistry. There are ways that we navigate those spaces, and so we start bringing out and extracting those ideas. And what happens is you start recognizing that these complicated idealists could one day be Ron Reagan, who was an actor, or Ronald Reagan, who was the president. It just depends on what layer you want to go to. or Barack Obama, who was pretty much an immigrant and Hawaiian and a surfer and a kind of to President Barack
Yeah.
Obama. How do you do that? Well, you do it because you have multiple layers. So you can be an artist, and that artistry can be your first entree into expression. But then we start saying, let's use what we know to open up those doors. Now, I think this also, that people naturally know that, because I'm gonna tell you, most folks who are extreme critics of people who are living what they may think is foul or living without inhibition or discretion, most of those who think like that have had moments when they were that. Their moments were just not sustained, nor was it covered on YouTube. But all of us had some moments where we say, "Ooh, I'm glad we're no internet thing." We all have some man that we are kind of worried about. I wish, but artists inside of artistry, especially urban artistry, is the purification of your truth. So they're trying to live out their truth, and what they don't understand is that their truth is a limited version of truth. It is just truth for now, but that's not
Mm-hmm.
truth for good. So our goal is to raise them to a level where they can see greater truth. And then greater truth brings greater revelation and greater artistry and that's how we do it. So do we have the capacity? Yeah. Between you and I, we can change the world. Just us two. I'm convinced, because I don't think that most of these individuals are incorrigible. I don't think they're diabolical. I think they come from a survivalist mode, and then they're entrepreneurial, and then they're culturally appropriate. So what we have to do is say there's some more culture, more entrepreneurial opportunities, and more ideas, and let's share those. So that's how I view it when I listen at them.
No, and it's yeah, it's very true. And I guess for me, a moment of revelation has been like, there's a moment when I'm just like, a little aha moment happened in my head
Mhm.
when yes, we say that, you know, artists always express themselves a certain way and they're always pushing the envelopes and the barriers, and it makes us all better in the end because we have to self, actualize, and kind of that's how, in a way, we keep elevating ourselves. I get that part. But I guess that some of us might not be so sympathetic. At least I used to be one of those people who was not sympathetic too much to, some of these expressions of people's creativity because of how much it is linked to the stereotypes that it creates in people's minds about us Black people in general, whether it's you, Bishop, or me. It doesn't matter. People, we're Black, you're Black, I'm Black. For them, it's all the same. And, it seems like the rappers and the hip hop artists and what they're promoting has come to become the definition of what a Black person is, at least in the common psyche. For good or for wrong, it doesn't matter. But whether we want it or not, it is there. So for the longest time, I think that someone like me, I was just like, this has to change. We have to change these people. They need to dress better. They need to do this. And I'm like, by whose standard, by the way? I'm not sitting here and saying that, wear your pants down to your ankles and all of that is right. I'm not saying that. Please, anybody listen to me. Magatte weight has not changed. I still don't think it's okay. So that's a whole nother thing, you know. But I had to
Y'all
sit there and
getting mad saying, "What happened? Bishop has changed." No, she's still the same. Go ahead. Go
no,
ahead.
I have not changed. I have not changed. But the thing is, eventually at some point I have to tell myself, we have to leave them. People have live and let live. When did that change? And maybe the responsibility shouldn't be so much on them to have to cut down some manifestation of their creativity, whether I like the manifestation of it or not, it doesn't matter. So then if I can't go there because it is not right to go there, I would not want anybody to come to me and say, "Magatte, you should dress differently, or you should do this, or you should do that." I wouldn't. So it was a big moment for me when I realized That can't be the solution. Me telling Nati or me telling DJ Duffy or me telling any of these people, you need to change this or you need to change that, when we're allowing other people to live their creativity, and it's fine because somehow people don't define their skin color by those few people who do a few things, I decided, no, we're not going to go down that path. They have to have a right to be who they are. But
Right.
what needed to change though is for them to have a chance, for the world to see deeper, to see them beyond this envelope. And I think, and I'm hoping that's what Catch the Drip is doing, so that people are hearing the other side of these people.
Yeah.
And eventually, yeah.
See, let me. I'm sorry, but you said something
Right.
triggered my mind. See, let me tell you something. See, having constructive dialogue about where a person is, where they are spiritually, where they are mentally, and what they are representing is always appropriate when it comes from the right spirit. In other words, if your mother or your father said, Magatte, you know what, that ain't a good color on you. That's not them being critical.
Are you trying to tell me something, Bishop? I know you. In your twisted ways. Are you trying to tell me my dress is no good?
No, I love it. But if they were to say that to you, you would assume that they were trying to get the best out of you, not to criticize what they think is a flaw. So I think it is right for us to step into a cultural arena and express our true admiration for their genius and their brilliance,
Right.
but also put a challenge and a standard that says there is a bigger issue that we need you to help with, and that's a moral code that's falling. That's some definitions that's getting too loose, and we need your help. Now, they could say no, but it's in the spirit by which we say those things that we gain the answers, or we gain those kinds of entrees into that world. Because see, here's the goal. See, the goal is to get into that world. That's the real goal. If we get into the world, they will be able to see themselves different than they see themselves now, because no one is talking to them about these things and challenging and saying, hey man, what do you think about this, in a way that it respects, their genius, but it challenges the inconsistencies. And say, hey man, I can't live up to that yet, and that's okay. But aspirational conversations are always good. How many times as a kid do you sit down and you think, well, if I was rich and if I had this, there's those aspirational and inspirational ideas that turn into goals and ideas. So that's our role. Our role is to be that conscious pricker, that thing that causes you to say, oh, okay, I may need to make some adjustments. And that's okay.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I love it. I love that, Bishop. And so for those of you listening, Catch the Drip is going to be launching soon. And that's really what we're trying to accomplish with Bishop, to show these people, in a different light, which, and also everything you said, I don't have to repeat what you said, Bishop. So with that in mind, Bishop, okay, so let's say we succeed. Let's say you and I, we succeed through Catch the Drip. We succeed in changing the stereotypes that people might have of a certain part of a population, of the Black urban population, in this case, rappers, hip hop artists. But again, we know that they have a big, they represent a big portion of the stereotypes that get put out there. So we talked about it. We know that they're great people doing their thing, and we're just trying to make sure that the rest of the world sees them the way we see that, and that it can help change perception. That's great. But let's say even that succeeds, Bishop, and I think it's important that that changes. Then as long as I have these facts that remain true about Black people in America, I think we still have a problem. So let me just give you three of the biggest facts that I have a problem with. And by the way, for people who are going to be watching us on, who watch this instead of a podcast, you have to understand, Bishop Omar sometimes looks like he's sleeping, but he's not sleeping. I am not boring, I promise you. I see, please don't. He is listening. It's just the way he looks. That's fine. So, Bishop, you ready? I tell you, I give you my free biggest facts that I'm just like, my goodness, until and unless we can fix these, we're in trouble.
Okay.
One out of 3 Black men can expect to end up in the criminal justice system. 75% of African American are born into single parent households. When the research is very clear and shows that it is very important and it will determine how whether a child can be properly launched into the world or not, but they are from a 2-parent household. And then my third stats and facts is that African Americans, you okay, Bishop?
Yeah, my camera dropped.
It's okay.
And African Americans what?
All right. The last one is that African Americans are, hear this, Bishop, but I know you know it because you're the one who's been working on this for the past 20 years.
Yeah.
African Americans are 7 times more likely to kill someone than white people are. And African Americans are 6 times more likely to be killed themselves than white people, for example. So I sit here. Everybody sits here. It's amazing. Everybody sits here. So what you have when people hear these numbers, yeah, some people might quibble about the numbers, you know, like some people I know, or some places they're saying it's only 60% of African Americans who are born into single parents households versus the 75% I said. But it doesn't matter that it's 60 or 75, it's still a huge number. So when people hear these facts, you have one faction that says, oh, what do you expect from these genetically inferior people? Those are the true racists who tell you it's just in their genes. These people are apes, they're crazy, they're violent. It's just who they are, they're animals. Those are like, that's that. And then on the other end, you have other people who say, it's all because of racism, right? And then there are people like you and me who are in the middle and we say, it is definitely not because of genetics. We're not that type of idiot or that type of ignorant. It is not because of genetics. But we also, you and me and Bishop and Anton, what I like about people like us is because we don't sit there and say it is only about culture. We are willing to admit that there is definitely, that racism definitely plays a role. I think that's, and you know, when, for someone like me, I was raised to always, my parents will say, just work harder, just work harder. And I think that's what a lot of people, especially a lot of Black conservatives, they tend to want to tell, you know, Black people, just work harder. And but it makes no sense to do that because I think it is important to recognize the pain, the reality that, yes, racism does have a play in this. It does, for sure. And it sucks. And it hurts. And I think we need to recognize that. So this is why when you see folks like Thomas Sowell, who I think is brilliant, I think he's brilliant. I think people like Glenn Lowry are great. People like that. But where I oftentimes feel that, you know, maybe people cancel them out. And I don't mean by cancel out, but they just tune them out because if their only thing is work harder, and some of them even don't want to hear about the racism part. I don't know if they recognize or don't recognize it, but they just don't want to talk about it. So then I think that their work harder is lost. So where you, me, Anton, and others were saying, yes, it is true. There is racism in this. Some of it is structural racism. Some of it is, you know, just people having these stereotypes about us and therefore acting racist against us, and it has some real repercussions in life. And we're gonna work on that. But in the meantime, a part of this is upon us to change, and that's what we call the culture. So this is where, Bishop, I have questions for you because for each one of these stats that I asked you, I'm gonna have the same question, and I'm going to be listening very carefully because I do think that those listening to us have to hear it. When you say, when I tell you 1 out of 3 Black men can expect to end up in the criminal justice system? Bishop, how
Wow.
much of that do you think is racism? And for the part of it that's not racism, which is then culture,
Uh-huh.
then what do we do? And what do you do in your day-to-day with urban specialists? And again, I know I'm talking to the expert on these things because you devoted your entire life to this work. So
Yeah.
we're going to start with this one. What if I tell you that 1 out of 3 Black men can expect to end up in the criminal justice system? Do we agree with people who say, if only racism ended, this wouldn't be true? And if the answer is not yes, if racism was over, this wouldn't happen, then what do we do about the culture? Can you just let me know? Maybe you agree that it's all racism.
No, I do not. I think that there is obvious racism and biasness. You can't deny that. Just by the sheer proportion of the number, 60% of the population should not make up 50 to 55% of the prison population. We know that there's a combination of education, lack of mentoring, and lack of finances that is the perfect storm for prison or jail, locally, federally, statewide. That perfect storm of not having an education, having financial disruption, and not having a mentor is key. So why? I think there are some cultural norms that we have accepted that should not be a part of our narrative. Now we can really go into depth to that and say, why is that part of our narrative? What I mean by that is we don't have to be married, we don't have to have a 2-parent household. We don't, things that are fundamental to family that has been challenged, and we've shrunk from that. We've said, well, even if the dad is in the life, but that makes a very big difference because of the mentorship and the financial stability. See, when you are in survival mode, remember this, whenever someone is in survival mode, they have told themselves, I have the right to suspend the rules. See, is. So I can break the rules, and whatever I'm caught with or caught doing, it's okay because it's a dog eat dog world. So that narrative, that's the cultural narrative that has to change. I was saying, they asked me the other week, Bishop, do you celebrate the 4th of July? And I said, oh, absolutely. It was like, why? The racist idea.
You said what? I didn't hear it, Bishop. You said what?
I said, I absolutely do. And they said, why would you celebrate the 4th, man? Knowing what it has done and knowing the slaveholders were the ones who know it. I said, no. I don't celebrate the individuals. I celebrate the highest ideals that I've seen in a social political document, that inalienable rights that come from endowed by the Creator. I celebrate the idea that my sovereignty, my sovereign being is not controlled by anybody. Now, that don't mean that I don't work toward making those rights come to fruition. I just say I don't yield in that sense. So that forces me to do some stuff because I think like that. So I changed my name. I did this with my children. I have naming ceremonies. It forces you to have responsibility. It forces you to have responsibility beyond the criticism because, again, I do agree that there's a systemic bias. There's a systemic racial dismissing, and it's widespread. It's not just in criminal justice. It's in banking. It's in policy. It's in education. It's in this. It's in implied motives. It's in all of that. But what do you do with that? Do you allow it to win, or as this Harlem poet said, if we must die, let it not be like hogs hunted and pinned in an inglorious spot while around us bark the mad and angry dogs, making a mockery of our accursed lot. If we must die, let us nobly die. In other words, you can't pin yourself in a corner and get in a fetal position hoping that all of this changes. No, you have to fight forward. So when we hear that that 1 out of 3 Black men will end up in a criminal justice environment, that means that the system and the individuals must be challenged at their core. When we hear that it's almost inevitable that we will not have the kind of lifespan because we are killing each other or being killed. It's inevitable. It is an error in our thinking if we say, well, that's systemic racism, as opposed to saying that's a systemic dementia. We are operating in a dementia, in a psychological neurosis that is taking our minds away from who we are. And it's like we've become soldiers to a war we cannot win. But all of that spirit can be repurposed if it's packaged right. So this is what I tell people. You cannot do drive-by analysis of issues that have real depth. So you got to have an intrusive, invasive approach to get very close to those who are in this dilemma and say, you have to impose a new value system on individuals and the culture. How do you do it? Well, you do it by saying, well, I'm going to try this catch the drift, or I'm going to become an entrepreneur. I'm going to be a spiritual leader. So that means we have to do what we do. And let me say this. We can do none of this if we are not talking about a radical shift in how we see the economic language of our world. We speak to the economic language as consumers and as people trying to be accepted, as opposed to producers and persons that have to be respected. So there has to be some shift in our own personal dialogue, because the only way you yield to certain ideas is if you give those ideas room to be who you are. So you are a dog, or you are a hood rat, or you are a gangster, but someone has to be willing to shake that stuff off and challenge the nature of it, not just the ideas behind it, but you got to challenge the nature of those assumptions and got to challenge it at a level of belief that will cause the other people to be uncomfortable.
Got it. So, because I oftentimes feel like we get, and I'm hesitant even using that word, because because it might be construed as me not, recognizing for what it is. But unfortunately, Bishop, I feel that when you talk around even this concept of the individual and the shift that needs to happen at the individual level, which in my mind is also part of what I call a culture, because culture is a group. It's just like, all of these individuals coming together, Anyway, so when you're, I just feel that I don't know, Bishop, how we can try and bring the conversation back to the cultural level rather than be stuck into the racism part. Remember, like you always say this, I don't know if you talked about it last time. If you did, don't bring it up again. But you know how, I remember when we were at the restaurant in San Francisco, you and I, and we were having dinner. And you remember when you came in, and I think that restaurant owner was actually probably scared of us. Maybe he was thinking that I had a feeling he wanted us to leave as soon as possible, because maybe he thought there was going to be a drive-by shooting coming up soon. Because, when you guys came in with your entourage and all of that stuff, I remember. We used to go to that restaurant. Yeah, we used to go to that restaurant, but he looked like he was scared. But anyway, so I guess here what I'm trying to say is, I am feeling, to me, I feel a sense of urgency and a huge sense of worry when I feel that the entire conversation, but the only conversation we're willing to have at the mainstream level, that's what media seems to support, that's what academia seems to support, that's what Hollywood seems to support the most. Everywhere you go, it's this, right? As in the racism part of things, whether it's structural racism or just people having biases about Black people. I see this everywhere all the time. And I'm not saying that this is not called for, but I rarely and yet have to hear about the cultural side, which to me is also where the greatest hope is at, because this plus working on culture has to come together for a new reality to truly be. And I would like to even argue that, you know, this cultural side coming together and fixing itself is actually going to be it's going to take care of this even faster. It will come and just be boom. You know what I mean? So
Let me say this a moment, because it's good, Magatte. See, look, there is a person who can go to 3 different continents, who can be from Africa, who can develop a company, who speaks French fluently and English, who is a business mogul and a social activist, and can be a female, and can do TED Talks, and can do Catch the Drip. That person exists. The reason I know it exists because I'm looking at it, right? Now, see, a lot of times when we are trying to start movements, we are trying to create and curate the argument rather than show the example. See, that's how a cultural stance is much more developed than a great argument about racism. My friend Bob Wilson used to say, so many people are armed with arguments, but they're not armed with witnesses. See, so the thing is, we find witnesses. See, the more witnesses we get, the less credible arguments are. See, I can say, nah, man, you can actually do that. And you say, how you know? Because I can show you. See, this is what I used to tell, this is what I would tell when I first started doing this work. I would say, look, man, I am convinced that the most dominant idealists in urban culture are the most underutilized. And I would say that they are these cultural heroes that we think are villains, but they have the quality of characteristic that can change an area, a neighborhood, a nation, ... And people would say, sounds good, prove it. So I would tell people, take me to the worst neighborhood that you got. It don't matter where it is. Take me to where the police won't go and drop me off. And I bet you that if you give me 90 days, 120 days, whatever, that neighborhood would change. And I've done it so many times because I know that they are the influencers. I'm convinced. And I know that most are not unrighteous and some type of, person who cannot be reconstituted. I know that. But some people don't know it because they ain't never seen it. So when we are saying we need to change the culture, they saying, well, what does it look like? So we have to find those budding cultural shifts and put a lot of super growth on it. We have to find those small airplanes and put rocket fuel in them so that we can bolster the position of a cultural shift, because there are more for us than against us. There are more people who are saying beauty is not the same as sexuality. There are more people who believe that. They just haven't had nobody to tell them. There are more people who say that you can be culturally relevant without being an isolationist. It's more people who believe that you can have a moral standard and that does not inhibit you to be free. It's just a lot. But when you are not able to have a megaphone, So it was someone who said, Magatte, I believe in your megaphone. And then Magatte said, Bishop, I want you to get on this megaphone with me. And now we got Catch the Drip. So Catch the Drip
Right.
is saying we will start putting our narrative in the culture and see, and let's have a race and see who wins. See, I believe that because there's an activist idea that has butted up inside of the culture, activism does not work without moral consistency. It's hard for it to work. It's hard for me to say, man, I'll do all of this to her, and then say, man, they need to get the structural racism. So you can't have both of those. Like the scripture says, you can't have bitter water and fresh water from the same well. See?
Yeah.
So the more they start saying these other things, it naturally leads you to another place. And if it don't lead you to that other place, then you are living in this dualism that will eat you up on the inside, and it'll make you not credible in a moment. So all we have to do is say, keep coming to the light. It don't get nothing but brighter. Just keep on coming. The closer you get to the sun ain't gonna say, wait a minute, man, let me lessen my rays and darken my, The more you get to the sun, the more purified you get, the more light you get, the more understanding you get. And our job is to just be so bold about this that those who are on the fringe say, I think I'm gonna choose them, because we are in a competition. That's what we're in.
No,
We're in
it's
a competition, and we're gonna win. And the good news is that we're gonna win. And I'm not saying that there's some type of internal optimism. I'm just saying, I'm telling you that there's gonna come a time when we're much older, and this gray that I have is just totally white, and we're gonna both say, we're gonna both look and say, we did it. Told you. And the we is gonna be a bigger consortium of we. It's gonna be folks that we didn't know that had the same position, and it's gonna carry those who are needed to come with us and not leave them saying you guys are the wrong ones. We're gonna say you guys are the underdeveloped ones. We're gonna cook you a little more, and then we're gonna have you as a 5-star meal, ready to go.
Absolutely. You're so bad. You're so bad. But Bishop, this reminds me, I wanted you to share with folks, because it is my theory that, so first, walk us through, just give us an example of a community or a one block that you guys at Urban Specialists were able to change through your work, and give us just a little bit of information as to how you did that. Because I agree with you with this witnessing part. And I know you've got 20 million stories, but pick your favorite one. Because I think for a lot of people, they don't understand how we can tackle this issue through what you're doing as well. I think a lot of typically the people who hear these stats and they go straight to, oh, of course, it's because of racism. I want you to walk us through a story where clearly you're like, yes, some of it is true. It has to do with that, but we still were able to change the realities and the outcome for these people. So is there anything that you can share with us as to?
That was the school. I'm just going to give you one example of a school, not even a neighborhood. We did this in some neighborhoods. I'm just giving you a school. It was a school called Madison High School. It was in the lowest percentile with the graduation rate. It was very tough. It was violent. It was, if you ever saw a movie Lean on Me, it was that. And the principal, who was a great person, he was innovative too. His name was Robert Ward. And Mr. Gales, we had about 25 gang members that were there. Day one of the school, kicked all of them out. He said, y'all just go home. They wrote them and get out, because I know what you're going to do. We've been dealing with y'all some. And I came to his school and I said, can I get all of those guys that you kicked out and give them to me? And if it don't work, you can kick them back out. I mean, it ain't like, He said, what do you plan on doing with them? I said, I think they will be the varsity team. I said, they're going to be your varsity team and turn the school around. He said, I don't know what you're doing. And then I went and got the OGs, the guys who were in the neighborhood that were the heads of these guys. And so and that's how I got Anton, because Anton just got out of prison, and I needed some guys with the blood.
Yeah, tell people more about the OGs. What are the OGs, Bishop? How do you describe the OGs? What
Yeah, the OG is a person who runs a neighborhood or a block, and they normally have criminal background records, but they are the ones who have survived, and they kind of set the rules for neighborhoods and communities, underground rules. And everyone knows they are there. They just don't know how to get to them, but that's what I do. So I went to those OGs, and I said to the OGs, listen, man, I need your help because the ones you're protecting are vulnerable. They said, how? We got the guns. I said, well, yeah, but they don't have a high school diploma. They can't get a job. They don't have a future. And what you know, I said, what you know, what you truly know, is that if they are in that position much longer, that the road that you're trying to gain your new consciousness on, they can't take it. So, I gave them the understand. Those OGs decided, all right, man, we'll let you have them. So I brought the OGs and those 25 young people back to that school. And the OG said to the principal, we will yield to what this brother is telling us to do as a mentor / enforcer of ideas. Those guys got back in school. Long story short, the violence, and this was not my stats, the violence went down by 90%. It was in a year.
You said 90, right? 90.
They did a double blind study, so it wasn't me. The attendance went up 72%. Graduation.
72.
Yeah. The graduation rate went up. It was, and the only thing that changed was this group. It was like, same kids, same socioeconomic, all of that. The citizenship went up. Folks started going back to the basketball games and this and that. And then it turned into, okay, the community said, okay, we got something here. So these same guys started becoming summer interns, and they did a whole bunch of programs. So the point I'm making was, it was just turning on a light, a vision that they could see. Because this is what I told them. I said, man, people are studying you like you Bigfoot and the Loch Ness Monster and Godzilla. They study you like that. Look how you walk, look how you breathe, and look at you. And I said, and they make millions of dollars on studying and locking you up, and you are getting shot being you. The only one that cannot see the value of you is you. But if I can show you your value, are you willing to allow me to give you some information and ideas and blah, blah, blah? I said, now what I'm doing may not work, but it's better than what you got. And they were like, yeah, man, we'll give you a shot at it. Let's try it. And that simple conversation led to an idea shift. Now, we've done this. I've done this so many times that's why I'm not afraid. So, and what I said was this: the point of it, Magatte, was the point was this: that if the most entrenched idea, which is violence and criminality, has some wiggle room in it, these other ideas that are not as volatile can also be shifted. Because these other ideas are really surface. They are not to the point where it's life and death. It's fun and, and behavior. It's other things that has some. That's why when I'm talking to, when you and I have these conversations with these influencers, I know that if they've been in those societies, I know that they've had some contradictory conversations with themselves, and they don't know how to solve those contradictions. So they have to just live with them until someone gives them a pathway that says, I bet I can elevate this, and I bet you won't be as vulnerable as you think you are. And then it just becomes your own, when your will is free. See, when your will is free, you can become Magatte when your will is free. But
despite the surrounding racism, right? Despite it doesn't mean that it's gone. It doesn't mean that it's still bothering here and there. It doesn't mean, but it's the way. Actually, it's the way to transcend it while we all become better people and while the systems become better. It is a way for us to escape.
right, right.
But you see, Bishop, what you're talking about is so. This is why I love the work you do. This is why I love the work that Anton does, the work that urban specialists and the OGs, what you guys do. You know, when I see Black Lives Matter just got the last number I looked at was $1.6 billion from corporations, and I'm like, fine, go do whatever you want to do with that money. But if we were able to give $1.6 billion to you, your organization, urban specialists, to superpower this work that you're doing with the numbers that you're showing, it is unbelievable. And what you're doing is almost like we have to wait for no one for this to go. And so this is why it's mind blowing to me. And I feel like so few people know about this, that there is a way out while the rest of society becomes better, whether it's in its systemic law, in the laws, or whether people become better people and have less biases against each other. While all of that continues, and we hope it gets better, and some people are working on it, I cannot help but wonder and dream of how fast we can solve a majority of these problems if we put all of our resources behind what you do, what Urban Specialist does, and what the OGs do. It's almost too, I don't know.
Listen, I'm going to say something. I thank you for your passion and your belief. And it's not just us, it's you too. But I'm going to say this. I want to say this very definitively. That if we had a little over $1 billion, and I'm being very serious, and we had between 7 and 10 years, we would eliminate, I want you to really hear this, we would eliminate senseless violence from urban communities.
Wow.
I'm saying I've connected with a guy named Mark with Uncornered, and this is to a science, and this is not just down to talk, I'm serious, because we know how many people are controlling it, we understand, we get it. But if it was $1 billion or so raised in about 10 years, and we decided that we were gonna super invest in that group that I'm telling you, there would not be neighborhoods that were full of violence and generational poverty. Those things would change over that course of time. And it would be such a decline that people would think, it would almost be like an awakening. But because the way we would do it would be very strategic in other ways, and we got to do some investment. But the point I'm making is that is a real number. That's true. It is, do we have the will to do that? Or is it easier to do something that's kind of, just kind of feels, I don't want to be a racist, and I don't want to be, and I'm saying, I don't want you to be a racist, but it's okay. You'll get over that part, but I want you to be an investor. And I want you to be serious about what we're doing, because right. I would rather be respected than placated and loved on and hugged, and that's cool. But who I deal with, that don't work on a long term. They're saying he's got a way out, and then there have been people who have managed our dissent for too long. And so this generation is saying, why the hell I keep on listening at you as you manage our demise? And that's what we have right now. So there's this new spirit that I'm with that's saying, let's go get it. And if we don't go get, young people say, let's go get it or let's come back with it, and I'm with that. So that's what I'm doing. Let's go get it and let's come back with it. See, when I'm talking about heal America,
that's wonderful. No, Bishop, to me, and this is what I hope people hear this. For me, you are, and the type of work you do is, I'm betting a lot of a farm on what you guys are doing. I'm not sure if we lost you. Bishop, are you still there? In any case, we were at the end of our session today, you guys. It's always enlightening talking to Bishop Omar. So again, thank you so much for joining us today. I am Magatte Wade, the founder and CEO of Skin is Skin, the lip balm on a mission. And you can find out more about us at skiniskin.com. And I was joined today by, I was with Bishop Omar Jawar, the founder and CEO of Urban Specialists. And Bishop and I together have a show called Catch with Rep with Magatte and Bishop Omar. And it's a show where we go behind the scene as to who our cultural influencers of today are, so that we can help young people live healthy, happy, productive lives. Thanks, Bishop, again for your time today. As usual, you have uplifted me, and what we heard about Urban Specialists and OG, I really hope people take it home, sit with it, and really try to internalize it. Because I think once they do, and then turn around and put their resources where their mouth is, I do think we stand a chance to fix this in our lifetime, really. And you've proven it. You've shown. You have all your. It's all there. The proof is there. So all we need to do now is to power this up. So thank you, Bishop, for the work you've been doing for the past 20 years. I can't wait for our next session, which is going to be this Friday, I think. And I have surprises for you. But again, I'm hoping that everybody listening to us is slowly getting to understand why Black culture matters. It's culture is everything. And as a matter of fact, it makes sense. If you have two siblings of the same family, same parents, everything, even twins, right? They're twins. One decides to go with party life, the party culture. The other one decides to go with study culture. And, I'm going to stay on top of things. Then you shouldn't be surprised that one has maybe a better outcome in life than the other. It's just culture that does that. It's the same person, same human, same everything. Just the culture and what it promotes and what it says is okay or not okay. And Bishop, for you to have that type of insight, I think it was brilliant. And for you to have developed the tools that you developed for this, I think it was brilliant. We can only do one thing, and it's to join you in your efforts. And everybody listening, Urban Specialists, you know what to do, and there's a lot to do. So thanks, Bishop.
And no, thank you. And I'm so happy that we are connected. And this is not just for now, this is for good. You can't get rid of me. You know that, right? It's over.
Oh, no. I was going to tell you that, but sometimes no, not yet. We're just kidding. Well, I love you, Bishop Omar. We'll be talking on Friday. All right.
All right.
Bye. Thank you.